I love to see the towns passing by and to ride these rails neath God's blue sky. Let me travel this land from the mountains to the sea, 'cause that's the life I believe He meant for me. And when I'm gone and at my grave you stand, say God called home your rambling man.
Welcome to Ramblin' Man Podcast episode number 119. This one's with Chelsie Blair Nunn. We talk about her becoming an art teacher. It's great talk. Kind of want to talk them into doing their own podcast. Great insight. Very curious person. If you'd like to find out more information, the website is chelsienunn.com, ChelsienUnn.com. Of course, if you want to follow on Instagram, same thing, at Chelsie Nunn. Appreciate them being on. Sponsor this week is Feral Giant. Feral Giant is a graphic design, illustration, and social media consultation company based here in Knoxville, Tennessee. So they do work for clients big and small all over the country, all over the globe, in fact. But they also do photography, videography, video editing, and audio editing, website design, SEO, writing, content development. Hell, they'll babysit your kids if it nets them money. So make sure you give them a follow on social media on either Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn at Feral Giant. And be sure to give them an email today and hire them for your next project. Without much further ado, here's the episode. I used to have the hardest time doing not intros, but just getting into it because it's just a conversation to where I would talk about how I haven't watched Game of Thrones. And that was the beginning of like 30 episodes. Because it was right around the time that I think Game of Thrones was ending. So, yeah, that was interesting.
I have nothing to say about Game of Thrones, so.
What a perfect way to start.
I can't help you there.
Okay. I asked, there's a friend of mine who's a huge fan of the books and was a fan of the TV show. And I didn't watch it because I didn't have HBO. And I was like, these things are taking like 18 months between seasons. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to remember all these characters. I'll wait till it's over, watch the whole damn thing. Got fussed at by a lot of people for doing that. And then it was all over. My buddy, who was a big fan, was like, you're good. Don't watch it. I was like, really? And he was like, yeah. It did not end well.
Yeah.
And then I started reading about it. I was like, oh, 3 different people played one character. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Because if I watch it in one big whack, I'm going to be like, wait, now why is that guy the mountain now? I don't understand what's happening here. It's like, I'm good. I don't need to watch it.
I did binge the whole first season. Just so I could have some conversations. But
And thumbs up, thumbs down? Or,
No, I didn't watch any more, so.
Oh, well that.
Sideways for me.
Okay. How do you feel about The Sopranos? Still, you haven't watched The Sopranos?
No.
Do you not watch a lot of TV?
No.
I almost said, how about The Wire? And I was like, wait, you may not watch a lot of TV.
No.
Okay. No. Okay. The Wire is kind of unbelievable. I know that's everyone says that, but it is.
I should give it a try.
It's a very patient show. Like, it's...
This could be why I don't...
I'm not selling it.
This could be why I don't watch TV. I'm not the most patient.
Okay. I started watching The Sopranos like a year and a half ago, and I made it like 4 episodes. I was like, I have to focus on this. I am not in a place to where I can focus on this, because I usually, work while I'm watching shit and stuff. I was like,
sure.
This thing's like 90 episodes. I don't have 90 hours in me to just sit here and go, stare. It's like, I ain't got that in me. Now it's like, maybe I'll make time I don't know. I'm getting yelled at by 3 different people for not watching it. So,
Well, maybe you should yell at them for something, at least.
I can think of some arcane show that they've probably not seen and say, well, have you seen Justified? No?
Exactly.
Then you need to watch Justified. Justified is a great show. But we're not here to talk about TV. So, some things I know, some things I don't know. So, but we're broadcasting to an audience of 3 whole people that listen to this podcast. More than 3 people, but I appreciate and like to joke. Some questions I know. But are you originally from here?
I'm originally from Claiborne County, Tennessee, which is very close to the Cumberland Gap.
Yep.
That's my reference point that I usually lend to people. In a little holler called Little Sycamore.
Okay.
It's where I grew up. My grandmother lived there her whole entire life. And eventually we moved not very far to Morristown, Tennessee. But that felt like a huge change of pace for me. And
the big city of Morristown.
And now I'm in this is the big city.
This is the big city.
This is the city.
That is a funny thing for people who are not from here. They're like, Knoxville's not that big of a town. I was like, when you grow up in Maynardville,
yeah,
Knoxville is massive. Like,
it is.
And it's the biggest small town or the smallest big town. I don't know which one.
Yeah. In
the world.
I mean, growing up, the dentist came to me, and I feel like that tells the most. So, and he was from Knoxville.
So here's a question: Claiborne County. Mm-hmm. Did you know any Collins?
Yeah.
So they were probably 5th or 6th cousins of mine.
Okay.
Because my grandfather, his dad was married 5 or 6 times, mm-hmm. and went anywhere from the Kentucky border all the way down to Knoxville. So when I was in high school and playing football all around East Tennessee, Dad was always like, if you see a Collins on the other team and you're north of Knoxville, they're probably related to you.
Wow.
I was like, that's terrifying.
Yeah.
To think about they're a distant cousin. Uh-huh. It's like, this one's only 5'2". I don't think he's part of the family, brother. Okay, so you lived up there. Y'all moved down to Morristown. Did you all move to Knoxville, or did you come to Knoxville to go to school?
I came to Knoxville to go to school.
Okay.
Yeah, I went to UT.
You did go to UT.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, before we get there, what did your folks do for a living?
Oh, Lordy. My dad had a lot of different jobs growing up. Everything from being a police officer to landscaping. And then he eventually settled as an industrial electrician, which is what he does now. And my mother is a school teacher.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Was the move to Morristown based on a job or something, or it was just we need to get somewhere where, there's a grocery store within 5 minutes?
I think maybe both. A little bit of both. There's a different brand of opportunity, I think, in Morristown than there was in Claiborne County.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we moved for the school system and for their jobs, change of pace.
Did they, because moving there, you've got a lot of nature around you. Did you all go out and explore a lot when you were a kid? Oh, yeah. Okay.
I spent a lot of time with my grandmother outside. She was an amazing gardener, and we would take walks every day through the holler to the spring, and it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. Mm. I think about the Dolly Parton podcast, and when she describes where she grew up, it resonates with me because that's what it was like.
Oh, wow.
Waterfall, snakes, animals, ancient grandmother being beautiful.
Yeah. And tough.
Tough.
Yeah. Because my grandmother was 5 foot tall, barely weighed 100 pounds, had beat tuberculosis when she was a kid. Like she had to be quarantined for, I think, 6 weeks.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so she was, even though we were all giants, she was the toughest one of us all. And whatever she said went. It's like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you want. Yes, ma'am. We're gonna pull silks out of corn instead of me going playing baseball. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's really funny because the opposite was true for me. My grandmother was a really large woman, and my other grandmother, my paternal grandmother, she was tiny. And so my grandmother, who lived in the countryside, decided that she was Big Mamaw, and she gave Little Mamaw to my other grandmother. So she owned it, and she
That's
threw
awesome.
me over her shoulder a lot.
Oh my
and
God.
just
Wait,
barreled around.
How did Little Mama like being called Little Mama?
I don't think she could argue with Big Mamaw. Like, who's going to do that?
Because she would throw her over her
Yeah,
shoulder.
right? I mean, you just, like you said, yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. That's amazing. Was anybody in your family into art? Like, were you into art as a kid?
Yeah, my dad and I sat on the floor and drew together quite a bit. And I'd say that's probably where my love of art started. Although his father was a painter, I would consider him a folk artist. And but I didn't know about that until later on when I found a photo of him with a painting.
Okay.
And was like, wait, what?
Do you know what he did for a living? Like,
I don't actually.
okay.
That's a great question. I know he was a farmer. He was in the military. He was in World War II. And he had a hobby of painting.
Huh.
That's what I know. He always wore a hat.
Always. That's my grandfather worked for the railroad, and on the railroad. Sorry, and he. I still remember one year for Christmas, my uncle found him a conductor's cap
Oh,
because the
wow.
one he had was so beat to hell from working for 40 years doing that, and my grandmother and I and him and my cousin actually took a train from here to Kentucky because my grandmother's from Kentucky, and he bought a brand new set of overalls, had his conductor's cap, and he dressed like a conductor.
That sounds fresh.
Yeah. It was wild. And then as we got on the train, I was like, well, that's kind of weird. And then as we got on the train, there were 12 other grandpas that all were exactly the same. And they sat there and started talking about like which line they worked for and everything. It was crazy. I was
Wow.
like, is this going to be weird? No, this is not weird. I'm sorry. They all are doing that because this is a special occasion. They put on their good overalls.
Wow.
Yeah. To do
I
that.
want to read that book. I want to read what everybody was talking about.
Well, another funny incident like that. So my grandfather grew up in Bearden when it was still countryside, when he was really young. Because he was born in, I think, 1917. So when he was a kid, it was still all farmland.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but he also spent time in Sharps Chapel, Maynardville, Union County,
Mm-hmm.
those areas. And I think this was about when I was in high school. My dad took a Saturday, and my grandfather's, he took my grandfather back up to Sharps Chapel because there was a guy that he worked with that wanted to go up there and see it. All this stuff, they find what's it called, a general store. There's literally still a general store there in the 90s. They go up, and there are these guys sitting there whittling on the front porch, and my grandfather walks up, pulls out his pocket knife, and he's like, "Do you got an extra piece of wood?" And they threw him a piece of wood, and they just sat there. And that's the conversation I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because they probably figured out that they had grown up together or something. God
Yeah.
knows. I still have that pocket knife.
Well, after so many years, like, you can figure out how you're connected.
Oh, yeah.
They would have to be connected in some way,
God, yeah.
if only through whittling.
That was when I think Dad told me that the guy he worked with was just like, "What is happening?" He just didn't expect him to pull out his knife and them to just toss him a piece of wood and him just start working it.
If you know, you know.
Yeah, if you know, you know. Yeah. Did you all go and Did you all travel a lot when you were a kid, or did you kind of stay in the area?
Well, my family, we're a family of gospel singers. My dad's brother and his wife had a band and a tour bus, and we also had a band and a tour bus. And so we would travel regionally to different churches, mostly all in hollers and countryside and outdoor plumbing, which is not plumbing.
Yeah. Wait, you gotta do air quotes when you do outdoor plumbing.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
So at that time, that was the extent of travel, I would say.
Okay. Did you all go to museums or anything, or when you went, was it essentially just, drive, do the show, drive to the next gig?
Yeah, that was our weekends.
Okay.
But as far as like seeing or being exposed to artwork, I really wasn't, to be honest. I had one book. Somebody bought me one book. Okay. And I remember looking through that book and really digging it and being like, oh, I wish I could do that, draw like that.
Okay.
I wish I knew what this meant. And I also had one pack of oil pastels that was passed down from my grandfather. So I did know that he at least had oil pastels. And I just remember the very pungent smell of them.
Yeah.
And also questioning their existence. Like, really, what are these?
Yeah.
What do you do with these?
And you paint and you're like, why is this not dry yet?
Yeah.
Why is this not dry? It's a week later. Why is this not dry yet? Do you remember the first piece or an artist when you were a kid that made you stand up and take notice?
I would have to say it was my dad's drawing of a plane, and the perspective was from above the plane. And so this is, he was amateur. He never took any classes or anything like that, but it amazed me that he could draw something that from that perspective and, cast a shadow on the field below. And I thought I want to be able to do that. Okay. So, yeah.
Your grandfather and your dad, do you still have pieces of theirs?
My dad has an enamel painting from my grandfather.
Okay.
I have some of Dad's drawings somewhere. They exist.
Okay.
Probably at their house.
Okay. So you had the one book. Were you into like comic books or cartoons or anything when you were a kid?
I did copy comics, Peanuts, things like that.
Okay.
That's probably how I first practiced, was copying comics.
Okay.
So,
because
that came in the paper. So that was available.
My grandmother had books that were like collections of comic strips.
Wow.
When I was a kid. I don't think I have them. When we, went through and did the big yard sale and sold our house, I think a lot of things got dumped into the yard sale that I was like, man, I wish I could have.
Yeah.
I was like, I think my uncle was just like, let's just get rid of it all. And I was like, no, I want to keep this and this and this. So you see that thing right next to the E.T. puzzle?
Yeah.
That little tin? That contains all the crayons and stuff that I had growing up. That's what I use. And they're those square rectangle wax crayons.
That's amazing.
That if you opened it up and smelled it, it'd bring back nostalgia. And even like the Mickey Mouse up there, that's what I used to collect money in. I think it's full of pennies right now. I just went ahead and left it.
As I look around your house, you have so many collections. What does collecting mean to you?
I think it was my grandfather went to a lot of yard sales and auctions. And my dad goes to a lot of yard sales and auctions. And there are a lot of, I think, interesting things that get passed over. Like there's a little, I don't know if you can see it, but a little ceramic Mountain Dew guy there that I think is like it's not an ashtray, but it's almost like a money holder or something. That came out of my grandmother's house. So it's like, probably doesn't mean anything to anybody else, but to me, it means something. I think a lot of things have ties to it, and some things I can't explain. Like the little, like I was showing you the skull donut thing. I was just like, I really like donuts, and I think this looks cool. So I'm going to keep this.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think a lot about the energy that objects feed us, things that are around us. Even scientifically, just a magnetic field entering that space. And it's really interesting what people surround themselves with, what objects are around. And I think about that a lot when I'm making artwork too. It's like having a book or a piece, something around me that has an energy that I put into the work.
There have been times where, like, I've thought about getting rid of, like, in the bedroom right on the other side of this wall, is a wall full of DVDs that it's probably like 2,000 DVDs. And there have been times where I was like, man, I should get rid of these. And then another part of me is like, how would I get rid of these? Nobody's collecting DVDs right now.
Right.
And then the other part of me is like, this is an argument I have all the time that most people don't realize. Everybody acts like because of the internet, everything is at our fingertips, when that could not be more wrong. Like they're on the Castaway DVD, the Tom Hanks movie, Castaway.
Right.
There is a copy, and I know he's not a good guy, but there was a Charlie Rose interview with Tom Hanks from that time. And it's one of my most favorite things to watch because of what Tom Hanks talks about. And he talks about like making Save It Private Ryan, making Philadelphia, making Band of Brothers, all that stuff. And I don't think it's available on YouTube, and it's just gone. And I was telling a friend the other night, there's a band I like, Calexico, that I found an acoustic version of one of their songs on a music blog, like in 2006. And there's part of me that wonders if the only place that still exists is on my computer in there in iTunes.
Yeah.
Because you can't find it anywhere. And it's one of my favorite songs, that version. The version on the album doesn't speak to me, but that acoustic version does. So I think those are the things, when it comes to collecting this stuff, I think I over-collect. But I also worry about some things just disappearing.
Right.
Because everybody thinks, oh, well, it's on the internet, so I can get it at any time.
The experience is so different, though, with a tangible object. Even if you're, like, wanting to watch that interview, the process of playing that again from a disc, opening up a case, like, all of that is so very distant from how we interact with the internet.
So this is another thing I think about all the time. Anybody under the age of, let's say, 25, like anybody over the age of 25 probably had a cool older brother or sister or a cool uncle or aunt that exposed them to music or art or movies, or their parents that they wouldn't normally see. They would pull a record off the shelf or pull a CD off the shelf and say, you have to hear this song. Nowadays, it's like, here's a playlist that you're never going to listen to because there's such an overabundance. I talk about this with Sean, who's a photographer. I was like, man, we skim through Instagram and say meh at photos that would have been on the cover of National Geographic 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's how much we are so inured with art and what people are creating that we don't give it the time and space it needs. And that's what I worry about with kids under age 25. And it's happening right now with people are freaking out because people are running up that hill because of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And there are some people getting mad at kids for just finding it. And it's the same thing that happened like 2 years ago when the dude on TikTok, his car broke down and he skateboarded and was drinking the cranberry juice and listening to Fleetwood Mac. And all of a sudden you had all these kids learning what Fleetwood Mac was. And then Stevie Nicks created a TikTok account and sat like at a piano with a thing of cranberry juice on the floor and sang the song. And I'm not kidding. There were kids going, who is this old lady singing this song? Oh,
yeah. I saw that, actually.
And there are people getting mad, but I'm just laughing. I was like, you get to listen to I'm not the biggest Fleetwood Mac fan in the world, but I was like, you get to experience all that now. That's what having a cool aunt or uncle or older sibling would have done.
Yeah.
And now you're kind of stuck with whatever becomes in the zeitgeist or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not going to be able to put on, I love Pink Floyd. You're not going to be able to put on Dark Side, turn off the lights in your room and just listen to it and absorb it anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Maybe I'm old man shouting at the sky, but I think we just don't consume things like that anymore. And that I'm kind of not happy about that because I think there's all this great shit out there that people are missing out on, and I just want people to experience it.
I do wonder where we're headed. Just in terms of evolution too, like, you know, it's obviously supposed to be this way. This is how we are. It's how we do it now.
Yeah.
But I wonder what will stay and what will go, what will come back.
Yeah.
Books, for example, you know, as I look at your wall of books, the experience of a book, I don't know if I grew up without a book in my hand, would I love reading from a screen? I don't know.
I can't read on a screen.
It's hard. It's difficult.
And I actually got there's a guy who was a politician that has kind of gotten out of it, that is somebody I admire greatly. His name's Jason Kander. He was in Missouri. He was in the state house, and he was an Iraq, Afghanistan vet that is very left-leaning. And he blew up a little bit because he disassembled and reassembled a gun, like his weapon from the military, blindfolded while talking about gun control.
Whoa.
That was his ad. He couldn't afford any other ad, so that's what. I think it was something like his campaign manager's like, now do you need to do this a few times to get used to? He's like, no. He just did it in like 60 seconds or 30 seconds or whatever.
Wow.
But he was going to run for the mayor of St. Louis, and PTSD started hitting him pretty bad. So he dropped out, and he just released a book on PTSD and mental health as a veteran. It's only available on this stupid app on my freaking computer or phone. I'm like, I need to read it by a certain time to write a review of it. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of like, this is going to be as much of a Cadillac problem as that sounds. This is going to be a chore for me to sit here and stare at a monitor and read a stupid book.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Totally get that.
But I don't know. That's what's bouncing around my head is getting someone to get context. Like Apocalypse Now. I rewatched it during the pandemic. I was like, I don't think a movie will ever be made this way again. Because it was just a cluster from beginning to end, and it's kind of a perfect film. And it kind of only would have happened had it been a cluster. Because once you start reading about it and what happened, like they paid Marlon Brando like $2 million to be in it, and he was like, I'm only giving you 5 days. And he showed up, and on like day one, he showed up very overweight, and he was supposed to be this lean, mean Marine. I did not mean to rhyme there, but and he showed up very overweight, and he was like, well, let's discuss the character on day one. And that's how they wasted all of day one.
Wow.
And then they got halfway through day two, and they're like, he's going to try and get out of this because we've only got him for 5 days, and he's out. So they just said, screw it, and started figuring out ways to shoot around how big he was by draping him in black and putting him in shadows, because it actually made him look more intimidative and scary. And they shot for those and let him just to go off on whatever the hell he wanted to say.
Wow.
Because they were like, we only have him for 5 days, and he's not going to cooperate. So, and you watch that film, it's like, that's a brilliant performance. And it's terrifying, and it's amazing. So, but I think about stuff like that, and it's like now it's CGI and all this. And again, not to sound like old man yelling at sky, but it's kind of like, those are the things I've got the big shit to worry about, but the big shit is sad and depressing and makes me want to start punching people. So,
we think about shooting with 35 millimeter film. And, you know, as a kid, that is what we used.
Yeah.
And so now as an adult, wanting to go back to the grain is such an interesting concept to me. Like, I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
I miss not having the grain of the film. I don't know.
There's a great TikTok and Instagram account called Expired Film Club. It's this guy. Have you seen it? It's the guy from the UK.
I haven't, but that sounds amazing.
It's great. And some of the rolls of film he's got have been already exposed, so he gets these cool double exposures.
Yeah. I did that accidentally the other day.
Really?
Yeah. And they were incredible. I pulled them out after I got them developed, and I said, oh, these aren't mine. This is someone who knows what they're doing. And then I went through and I was like, oh, this looks like a person from my past. And on top of that was a double exposure of somebody in my present. And I was like, what's happening? But they were lovely. They were beautiful.
That's awesome.
So accidents can be great.
I think I've got between 10 and 15 rolls of film from the late 90s sitting in that cabinet to shoot on, to where I was just like, man, I want to, but it also is like, man, I also don't want to waste all this film. Like I'm a little scared and apprehensive to shoot film again. What
a sublime place to be.
Yeah. What a Cadillac problems, what I call that. Okay, so you come to Knoxville, you go to UT. Mm-hmm. In high school, were you taking art classes or anything? Like, no? Just
Absolutely
doing it at
not.
Home? Just doing it at home?
No, I entered UT as a chemistry major and was chemistry for about 2 years almost. And then as you do, you have a little breakdown and think about your life. And I realized that I really missed art. That was something that I felt naturally passionate about. And I just didn't have exposure. And I wasn't really pushed in that direction. Mm-hmm. Although I was, always kind of celebrated in those ways when I would make something artistic at school. But yeah, in college, I realized that, I love science and I do feel passionately about science, but I kind of wanted to do everything. I wanted to write. I wanted to make art. I wanted to study science. And I wanted to do it all the time, all together. And so I had to ask myself, how can I do that? So I changed my major after taking a education psychology class.
Good Lord. Education psychology.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then I entered into sculpture and just sort of set my sights on teaching because that felt scientific to me, and making art about the mind. And then I would just randomly write, neuroscientists and call them my heroes and be like, you do really cool stuff. And it worked. It still works.
Wait, you do really cool stuff. Here's a sculpture.
Yeah. Look at my sculpture that I made after I looked at these images of the brain that you made.
So when you changed majors, was it a hard conversation with your folks? Were they, all right, I guess science is also another weird one. It's like, I guess you're going to teach or become an engineer or...
Yeah, I don't know. The people who were in my life at that time were really into math and science, and that was the company that I held. And I think that dynamic shifted, and you sit down with yourself at some point at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I realized that, although I do love those domains, I think that I could see myself in the art field forever.
Okay.
Happy.
Brothers and sisters?
I have a sister. She's 9 years younger.
And what does she do for
she works with kids.
Okay.
But we have very different life paths.
Okay.
So
my sister's 11 and a half years younger than me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of wild.
It is wild. Are you very different as well?
Yeah. Although it's wild. I am the only artist in my entire family ever. It's all blue collar. My dad was a truck driver. Mom worked for the phone company. Uncles were engineers. One became a mailman when he got laid off from Carrier. Another one worked for the Greyhound bus. Another one's a teacher, kind of in drafting. Mm-hmm. And my little sister still hasn't kind of found her path. She went to nail school. She is an unbelievable artist on nails. Like, she draws like Dracula and shit on a nail. I was like, she's like, but being around people makes me anxious. It's like, you're working on people's nails.
Mm-hmm. That's a people job.
Because when she first graduated and stuff, I sat down with her because I know all the marketing and stuff. I was like, here's what it's going to be like. Here's what you need to do. Like, here's what you need to do for the next few years to build this. And I said, one of the things I said to her is, get a job and eat shit for 2 years. Because then you'll have that experience and you'll have a resume and you can go somewhere and say, I can do this. Here's examples of my work.
Yeah.
And get whatever. I was like, but trust me, eating that shit for 2 years is, I know it sounds like it sucks, but she doesn't come from means. We don't come from means. So work.
Yeah.
And you're going to learn a lot of things in that time.
Mm-hmm. And meet a lot of people.
Yeah. On what to do and what not to do also. And, still hasn't found her way. She's done call center stuff and she started drawing and stuff more now. And I get frustrated because it's like, to what end? Let's do a Patreon. Let's do something. Let's make some money off of this. Good Lord. Not all art has to be commercial and make money, but when you're not making any money, please let me help you make money.
I remember that.
I don't know what I just said.
I feel like you're talking to me.
I swear I wasn't wagging my finger. I don't know what I just said. Might have to clip that out and put that up on the YouTubes. That's going to be my Motivation Monday one. I'm going to quote my damn self. Okay, so you change majors, start doing sculpture, or start doing kind of everything art?
I just entered at my basic courses in art, and the first class that I took was sculpture. Okay. So all the basics, drawing, painting, sculpture.
Did you get a BS in art?
I got a BFA in art.
Or BFA. Sorry.
And then
I have an associate's. I don't know.
And then I got my master's in art education. So
okay.
And that's a 5-year program at UT. So now I'm a mentor for that program.
That's awesome.
As an educator. Yeah.
What? Okay, very stupid question, because I know some people have masters in just art. And it really sounded like they just went in there and were able to do whatever the hell they wanted to do. But when you focus on art education, what are some of the other programs or classes you have to take? Or are there other programs and classes?
For sure. It's very, very different. So if you're getting your Master's of Fine Arts, then you're basically developing a portfolio of your work, kind of like narrowing your focus and your voice as an artist. Like, that is the goal. And then for my degree in art education, you're basically learning the psychology behind teaching, the best practice, things like that. So social justice was a class that we took, special education, things like that. And then, of course, we had coursework that included actually teaching. So, and then learning how to make art with younger people. That was a lot of what we learned.
Could you focus, was it more general, like you didn't focus on teaching elementary school, middle school, or high school? It was more like general education?
Yeah, so we're certified coming out, being able to teach kindergarten through all of high school. So
was that like a program of, here's how you talk to little kids, and here's how you don't punch 16-year-olds?
Oh, I wish it was. that is just what you learn as you go along. It's one of those things that you just have to do it to figure it out. And so now I teach kindergarten, which is 5-year-olds, to 5th grade, which is like 10-year-olds.
Yeah.
And that's my everyday. So every day it starts with people who are, talking about very nebulous things first thing in the morning, and I'm still drinking my coffee. I'm like trying to get on that page. And then by the end of the day, people don't really understand as a 5-year-old where their body is in space, and we're all just sort of floating around. It devolves every day. So
all I'm picturing is someone coming up to you, grabbing your leg with one finger up their nose, going, teacher, teacher, teacher.
Oh yeah. That's exactly what happens by the end of the day.
4 hours ago.
Yeah. So the breadth of just the range of the grades that we teach every day, and we're departmentalized as an encore team. That's what that's called in elementary school, or special areas. And it really amazes me that so many people in our district do that every day. They teach that range of growth. And it's really cool.
So are there kids you have seen at age 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10?
Yes. So I have my students for 6 years. And, when I'm fussing at them, I say, we've been friends for 6 years. I can't believe you would talk to me like that.
Yeah.
I'm one of your best friends.
Because
I haven't had friends for this long. 6 years is a long time to know a human.
Yeah.
So, we get pretty tight.
Okay. Are there... How long have you been a teacher?
10 years.
So, over those years, have you kind of developed like, okay, here's where I want to start the 5-year-olds. We're going to work in clay, or we're going, we're going to work in this. And then as they develop, I'll start working through to where 10-year-olds will start working on something completely different.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to focus on, I feel like it's one of my biggest responsibilities to give them access. And this kind of brings me back to when I was a kid. Like, I didn't have art classes. We didn't have art classes. I didn't have art until middle school.
Same.
And then one art class in high school. So I just didn't have access to clay or printmaking materials or anything. And so it's a pleasure to give kindergartners, let them touch all of those different media. And then as they grow with the media, we do different projects every year. And they basically touch everything. Mm-hmm. So from fibers to printmaking to clay, just as much as I possibly can fit in a year and in a budget. But
in a budget. Our teacher at Fulton, Miss Waller, she had been a professor at UT for a long time, her and her husband. Mm-hmm. And she brought a lot of what she learned and taught there to Fulton. So we were doing charcoal, and then we would do screen printing, then we would do intaglio printing.
That's amazing.
Like all that stuff. I was like, and you talk about no budget. It was Fulton.
Yeah.
Like art was very low on the totem pole there, but she figured out ways to make it work and just really kicked ass. Like, she was amazing.
Yeah. It's a delight to be able to provide that.
Yeah. Going backwards, what made you decide that teaching was the thing you wanted to do?
It's pretty unconventional, but like I said, taking educational psychology, at the time I was really interested in brain chemistry and brain imaging, neuroimaging, and that was really coming of age at that time, like just new ways of seeing the mind. Mapping neural pathways was really new at that time. And when I took that course, I felt like I could participate in the science of a mind, is what I was thinking at that time. So teaching literally affected and affects my students' minds. Yeah. And I love knowing that. And that's what I was making artwork about at the time too. So
Okay. When you got done with your MFA or am I saying that right?
that would be my MS.
MS.
BFA was my Bachelor's of Fine Arts, and then
Okay.
MS was a Master's.
Your MS, was it, I don't mean this in a negative way, was it, I'm just going to take the first job I can? Or was it, I want to work with elementary school kids?
I did want to teach older students. And I applied all over the country. And, I mean, I was still particular. And I almost took a job near Clemson. But, you know, I've heard that Knoxville is called the couch, where, you know, people...
I think that may be the first time I've heard that phrase. The couch?
Yeah. You come home and, you just want to kind of relax here. It ended up, I think, being my couch. Like, I like it. It's a great town. It's so central to everywhere that I want to go. It's affordable. So,
although I'm going to take a quick time out now and say, but anybody listening from California, New York, or Florida, it sucks here. It's the worst place in the world. You can come to visit, but you have to leave.
Yeah.
Stop changing my city. Please
That's
stop
right.
changing my city. I have gotten to a point where I'm getting frustrated.
I hear that.
Because I see some people, I'm like, why are you driving a Tesla?
Yeah.
And I went to State Street Garage to have, parked in State Street Garage to have lunch with somebody like 2 months ago. And it was like a Maserati.
Yeah.
Teslas. Like, I was the cheapest car in there. I was like, what has happened to my city during the pandemic, man?
Yeah.
This is weird.
I took a picture with my dog in front of a Lambo the other day.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It's what's happening in Knoxville.
So go away. It's not it's the couch that's on fire.
Yeah.
Stay away. Yeah.
I don't know what the question was that you asked.
Did you choose elementary school?
Oh, no, I
No.
didn't.
Okay.
It chose me. I did need a job eventually. And that's what happened. So I started with elementary, but I realized that kids are kids no matter, you know, what grade band they're currently in. And I learned ways to teach what I wanted to teach to younger people, younger minds.
So, fun fact, between the ages of 19 and 25, I got 6 job offers to teach print shop in different high schools around town.
Nice.
And I turned them all down because I was like, I am too young and too angry. I will put a kid into a wall.
Yeah.
It's like, because they're not that much younger than me. And I would love to eventually teach design at a college level. But good Lord. I have to get like a PhD at this point.
Yeah.
And I hate it because I was like, this is my 30th year of doing graphic design. And I can't teach because I don't have 3 pieces of paper. And I always I'm going to apologize to you for saying this, because I don't have 3 pieces of paper and $120,000 in student debt.
Exactly.
I was like, that's why I can't teach. I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That it's not, that experience is, because it's kind of a technical, design's more of a technical field, I would say, than, and that always bothers me.
You could always start your own school.
We'll talk off mic, because I think I don't want to blow up his spot. I think I have done good at not telling. I have a friend who has an idea for a school that is a very good idea for a school. Yeah. And he has worked in nonprofit enough to where he was like, eventually I want to do that. And I was like, yes, please do that. It's a great idea. But I'm going to write that down as a note at the bottom. So I don't forget. Also, so I don't have to edit, because I have fired my editor, Kirk. That's been a running joke since episode 1, is that I have an editor named Kurt or Kirk, and I will go, Kurt, cut that out. And there is no Kurt. Yeah. Okay. is there something you have found, some key to help encourage young artists, to encourage kids?
I think that saying yes is important. I think my students are really surprised when I say yes.
Okay.
I set out stipulations for a project, as you do. And then I tell my colleagues, I'm like, and then they come up to my desk. And when they approach the desk, they've come to fight with me. They're like, I don't like this project that you've set in front of me. I remember this one student actually, my project was to draw a plant of some sort. And he comes up to me, but I want to draw a dog. And I was like, okay. And then he keeps talking. I'm like, yes, that sounds good. And he's like, so he ends up drawing a dog plant, right? Which is way more, it really pushes the boundaries of the project.
Yeah.
And if I had said, no, I told you to draw a plant, then this beautiful dog plant wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So I find that saying yes and kind of working around what they're thinking, what their ideas are, helps motivate them. I really believe in motivation. I really believe that students should be self-motivated. So I just try to facilitate more than actually, tell what to do.
Because you see these kids for so long, do you give them like summer projects or anything to do? Or do you encourage them to like doodle when they're home?
Yeah, we make sketchbooks closer to summer or closer to a break. Just depends on, what grade level that is. But I encourage them to draw. I ask them questions like, oh, where could you take this? Where are you going this summer? How can you sneak this in your bag? You
don't need that extra pair of jeans.
Yeah. So definitely.
Okay. So I taught design to kids at the Basement Community Arts Studio.
Oh, yeah.
And it would be like an 8-week program. And at the end, I would have professionals come in and they would create a portfolio and the professionals would critique them.
That's amazing.
And I think about that a lot. I was like, man, I would love to do that again. But it was hard as crap to get people to sign up.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that, all told, it wasn't that expensive.
It was hard to get students?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I think it was like 8 weeks long. Everything was by hand. Nothing on a computer. I would teach them the history of design. I would show them examples. And I think it was like $160 for 8 weeks. I was like, it doesn't feel like enough.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's... And I had all kinds of kids. I had some kids who had money and some kids who didn't have money.
How long ago was that?
It's been in the last 5 years.
Oh, okay.
But it got down to, at the tail end, it was, you have to rent the space from us and pay us a flat rate for the space, as opposed to just splitting the money with us. And I was like, I can't justify spending $500 to hopefully make, when I don't know how many kids will sign up.
Yeah.
So, because I also didn't feel like saying no if only 2 kids signed up.
So what were the ages of these kids?
I think the youngest I ever taught was 11 or 12.
Okay.
And the oldest was 18. Although, I don't think they'll ever hear this. The 18-year-old kind of acted like about a 12-year-old. Was obsessed with Moana to a level to where I was like, you are legal at this point. And you may go away to college. And that scares me a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like, I want you, like, almost, I have a little sister, so I'm like, please grow up. Please grow up a little bit more. Please. Or please, Mom and Dad, can you please, I don't know. Just please do something. Please do something. Because that scares me a little bit. Like.
So would you teach high school now?
I don't think so. I think the whole point of teaching college I want to teach people who want to learn how to do it. Like my teacher at Fulton, my print shop teacher, Mr. Miracle, Conley Miracle.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah. He would tell the class at the beginning, he was like, if you just want to sit up front and do nothing, I'll give you a C. And there were a lot of people who took him up on that.
Yeah.
And I think I've looked into this. There, out of everybody that went through his because Fulton is a rough school.
Mm-hmm.
And my graduating class was between 103 and 108. And 3/4 of my graduating class are dead, in prison, or have done jail time.
Whoa.
And out of everybody that I went to school with, everybody who went through that program, only 2 of us are doing design now. Mm. And I'm the only one. Yeah, only 2 of us. I'm not going to disparage anybody. 2 of us are still doing this.
Wow.
And it's not lack of want, I don't think. I think a lot of people just take kids early and need to get a job at Denso. Mm-hmm. Is the honest answer.
Yeah.
Because they grew up poor. That's a frustrating point about, I've mentored a lot of kids. I've talked to a lot of kids because I go up to Fulton and talk to them twice a year. Mm-hmm. I've been all around town talking to kids in art, talking about making a living in art. Whatever that phrase was I used earlier. But seeing, the good Lord, now my tiredness is starting to kick in. Wealth inequality is a big issue for me. It's a big struggle. And it's seeing somebody who comes from means be able to kind of float. Mm-hmm. And seeing a kid that I mentored at Fulton getting a young woman pregnant at 18 and having to go work out at Denso. Yeah. And he's an unbelievable artist. Could have been a great graphic designer. Yeah. Now he has a second kid, and he still works at Denso. Mm-hmm. He's like 26. And it's frustrating. Yeah. And as much as he is and I'm sorry for cursing so much on this, but as much as he is a shitheel, there was a point where Joe Rogan was actually fighting for UBI because he was saying there could be somebody right now who is a tremendous potter but has to work construction because they just don't have the means to focus and develop that skill. Yeah. And UBI may actually help more people do stuff that they actually care about and put more good stuff out in the world. What a concept. How weird is that Joe Rogan is the one that for like 2 years was yelling about that. He's like, this is the dumbest thing. We are too rich of a country not to figure this out. Yeah. And now he's an idiot. I listened to him hardcore for a long time, and there is a point where he switched. And I finally had to be like, I think I'm good. I think I don't need to listen to him anymore. Because he actually used to have a general curiosity, and not anymore. Good sweet Jesus. Have not listened to him in 3 years, I think. One of the best interviews, if you're willing to stomach it. He had a blues musician on, Daryl, and I can never pull his last name. He's a black blues musician who has talked thousands of KKK members and Nazis into giving that up. Wow. To where he has closets full of robes. Oh. To where those people have come and gave them to him saying, I'm done with this. And it was incredible. One of the best interviews I've ever heard in my life.
I'm sure.
And yeah.
What a story.
It was great. But, okay, so you're nurturing young artists. Do you still have time for self-work?
Yes. That's what weekends are for.
And summers?
And summers, yes. Yeah, I spend most of my weekends working in my studio, which is in my house now, because the vacuum shop closed down during COVID times. Miss it.
And every other studio in town, the minute they even talk about being open, they fill up immediately.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Like Ashton, Relay Ridge. I went in there when it was still empty, and she's like, we've already filled it. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, they have a wait list, I'm sure. But, it was a nice change for me because when the studio closed, I decided to do more writing, which I'd always written as part of my practice always wrote poetry and painted sort of together, but I'd never formally published. And so when my studio moved home, I started writing more and went down that path of getting published and writing chapbooks, etc.
Fiction, nonfiction,
poetry, just like narrative poetry. Yeah.
Nice.
It's sort of the same genre as my painting, collaged type of language.
Okay.
Just a different type of language, I guess, not visual. But yeah, I paint and I write almost every Saturday and Sunday when I have my free time.
So the dynamic of having a studio go to and having a studio in your home, are you more prone to work now because it's right there? Or is it harder to work because Netflix is right there?
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not like...
You're still getting used to it too.
I'm not like hugely into watching television. I think it's all routine, really. The answer is it's about the same.
Okay.
I just schedule that time. So I wake up in the morning and that's when I write. And then sometime before 3 o'clock, I make sure that I paint or draw or something artistic. And then I go about my day, having checked that off the list.
Whereas I just got boxes of ideas, and here I'll show you one. I've been dying to start painting on skateboards.
Oh, okay.
Cannot find old skateboards anymore.
Yeah.
They're hard to find. So I will sketch them in Illustrator to come back later.
Uh-huh. Oh, nice. That's dope.
That's a piece, because I like the idea of the drips coming from the bottom as opposed to the top. And I want to develop some kind of icon. And honestly, what I thought is there's a strong chance I will just, whatever it is that's what it'll be.
Yeah.
I'm not going to design it in here. It's just whatever I feel. And I can always paint over it if I don't like it.
Exactly.
Amazon sells skateboards, blank skateboards, for like $25.
Would you go down that path?
If I have to. I had this thought 2 days ago. I need to put my dad on it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Because he goes, this is still one of the best stories about my dad and this stuff. And I'm about to unleash him on stuff for some friends that are opening a 70s theme bar.
Cool.
I told them, I was like, is there anything you need? And they're like, well, no, we're no. I was like, no. Trust me, this is what my dad's retired. This is all he does every day.
He's a picker.
He goes to Carm. He goes to any of those places. Goodwill, Ladies of Charity, wherever. And just finds all kinds of crap. All kinds of gems. And so she gave me a list of stuff. And I haven't given it to him yet because once I turn on that faucet.
Yeah.
Because my friends
coming in.
My friends got a CSA years ago, and they wanted to grind their own meat into hamburgers. So I told him, I was like, hey, they're looking for a meat grinder. Will you see if you can find one? He's like, yeah. Like a week later, he just hey, are you home? Yeah. Here you go. Handed me a meat grinder. It's like, cool. I took it to him. They're like, wow, that was amazing. Next week, calls me. Hey, are you home? Yeah. Here's a bigger meat grinder. It's like, all right. I took it to them, and they were like, cool. What are we going to do with 2 meat grinders? A week later, they had bought an RV, an Airstream. We're fixing it up, and we're planning on setting off to travel the country. Both resign from their jobs and do freelance. So like 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, are you home? It's like, yeah. Here's a smaller one that they can take.
Oh, my gosh.
And I took it to them, and they said, tell him we're good. Please stop buying us meat grinders. We now have 3 in like small, medium, and large. So that is Dad.
What a reliable resource.
It's wild. So I thought about that a few days ago. It's like, why have I not tapped him to get skateboards?
Yeah, I think talking about it right now is your cue.
Yeah.
You got to do that.
To get him. And I've got the list of 70 stuff to be like, all right, Dad, if you see
just
any
add it on there.
Yeah.
Skateboards.
I need to do like if he knew how to operate Google Docs, I would just have a Google Docs. Here's a checklist of items.
Perfect.
And have like one of them be as much as you can get. And then one of
Yeah.
them be, once you get one, we're good. Please stop. Yeah. Okay. So you're doing your own self-work now, but you're toggling. So there's not like a media you prefer. But do you try to push yourself in ways like, I haven't done pottery or ceramics in a while. I would like to scratch that itch or...
I have to say that working for this school district, and shout out to Heather Castile for being an amazing supervisor or specialist. We have the opportunity to partner with Aeromont every year.
Yeah.
And so this year I learned how to make a basket out of wood pieces and all strung together with rope. So that was outside of my norm.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned how to make lumen prints, just all kinds of things through that avenue, professionally. And then, I don't know, in my own practice right now, I'm working with film, 35 millimeter, as we were talking about earlier, and, like tracing paper, vellum, things like that, thinking about layering in new ways. So yeah.
Okay. And is there something you would like to see more of in art in general?
That's a sweeping statement.
So, what's funny is earlier today I was like, should I send you... Nah, I'm not sending you any questions. I got to have in the moment. I got to have the raw answer of... I got fussed at by Josh Shorey. He's like, damn it, why didn't you... I was like, no, because I don't want you to hone your answer. I want it to be...
Yeah. But what comes to mind first, I think is... I recently read a Mary Oliver book, and she mentions how, looking back at the masters is really valuable. Kind of like repeating master work is valuable. Tracing can be valuable. But I would like to see more contemporary work celebrated in larger museums. I see a lot of old masters, and but I get really inspired by people who are making work today. So, spending time in Knoxville has been great because there's so many makers. It's the maker city, and I love seeing what people are making here and now, presently. So smaller galleries, would like to see more of that.
Yeah.
Local artists, love that. Yeah, so that comes to mind first.
Okay.
I think I would love to see a bigger art museum here. An addition to our museum.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say what. Maybe some people have been there. They've had their time. Let's move on to something else. Like I tell you what, the one thing that bums me out, I haven't been to McClung probably since I was in high school.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that myself lately.
And it kind of, every once in a while it hits me. I was like, damn it. But I think it's growing up here. It's like UT campus sucks to park on. Like I never even liked going over there and eating because it was like, do I have to pay to park? Do I not have to pay to park? Am I going to get towed? What the hell is going on? But now, so here's the challenge to both of us because it's summertime. There are no kids.
Right. Got to go.
Both of us got to hold each other accountable.
I did hear the Egypt display is leaving.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to start a rumor, but I'm pretty sure.
Well, I tell you, a good one is the East Tennessee Historical.
Yes.
Museum.
What a fun museum.
And have you ever been upstairs to the library or the archives?
No.
So that's another challenge to you. I worked on a project.
You can just go up there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went up there and stared at microfiche for weeks at a time, where I was searching old newspapers for articles on a certain topic.
Wow.
That it was
like
a project.
The movies.
Yeah.
I've never done that.
But not as fast, and God, it was boring, and I should have brought headphones with me. But there was a project I was working on right after I got laid off that me and one other person went up there, and that's all we did. And I would sit there and take photos with my phone, of old ads that I like the type and
Yeah.
stuff on. So I have a folder somewhere on my Dropbox that's just, here's ads from the 20s.
Yeah.
And like cool frames and such.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
So when you travel, do you try to seek out art while you're traveling?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny to come full circle now, like in this conversation, because I didn't have access until, when I was in college. Everybody's talking about going to museums and the artwork that they've seen. And, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, I haven't been to any at all.
Oh.
Because when I switched my major, like that had not been a goal of mine at that point. So, I was like, I need to do that. So everywhere that I've traveled in the past 10 years, I've hit up the art museum. That's local, wherever that is. So everywhere from London to New York to just everywhere.
There's a really cool one, although it's a pain in the butt to get to. My friends live there and I visited them. Springfield, Missouri is a cool downtown. Has a great donut shop. Donuts.
I love donuts.
Hertz Donuts in Springfield, Missouri. That's the OG one, but I think there are ones in like St. Louis and stuff. They actually have an ambulance as their vehicle. Because they're like the heart attack donuts. Like, they are amazing. Like, I ate so many donuts. But their art museum was low-key amazing.
That's awesome.
And I've still got on my phone photos of artists and stuff to where I was like, I got to look up more about this person because this was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And even like the Hunter down in Chattanooga.
I love the Hunter.
Is great because I went down for Wayne-O-Rama. So I went to Wayne-O-Rama and then went to the Hunter that had another Wayne White exhibit.
Yeah. You know what I love about the Hunter is that their focus on folk art.
Yeah.
And that's refreshing.
Well, that's another weird thing about growing up here and going to, like, when I was a kid, our vacation every year was, not to brag, Myrtle Beach. because we would get 20 families together, and that's the only way we could afford to go. Because we would rent out a floor of a hotel for cheap. That's how only way we could afford to go. And so we didn't go anywhere other than freaking Myrtle Beach.
Yeah.
And so when I could travel as a grown-up, the first trip I took was to Asheville in like 2002, 2003. And it's so weird how that town has changed in 20 years. How it was all folk art. It was all handcrafted stuff. And now it's tech people and beer.
Yeah.
Which I love beer. But I don't need 57 breweries.
Yeah.
Like, and it's because I actually looked after I went, I was like, maybe I should move to Asheville because I had nothing really other than family. It's like, there's not enough business here for me to move.
Yeah.
There was like one marketing company and that was it, but there was no business there.
Yeah.
And now it's like a tech hub.
Do you fear that Knoxville is taking that route? Or do you see it developing differently?
This is I don't know if this is a shitty way to look at it, but I still think there is still a little bit of old boy in this town that keeps some of that stuff from glomming on. I think the stuff that I see, I'm trying to think how to word this properly. I think the things that I see now that bother me are boring ass white yuppies that are like, we go to the food truck park every Thursday and we go to this brewery every Tuesday. And it's like, and what a boring and sad life you have.
You lay in bed and you think about that before
Do
you go
I
to
do
sleep.
that?
Yeah.
No, I look at Instagram and think about it.
Okay.
And I'm just like, you don't do anything other than the three things you do.
Yeah.
And you're trying to run this town. And I'm good with you not running this town. There are far more interesting people than you in this town. So when I see certain things, that's what I worry. I worry about money in this town. about people like that having the money to.
Yeah.
And, well, hell, I'm never going to work with them, so it's fine. I'm gonna rag on somebody real quick. Axle Logistics. The whole thing about Axle Logistics drives me bonkers. We're going to go in this cool building, but it has no parking. So we're just going to buy all the property around it and tear down everything and have parking.
Yeah.
Because we screwed up. And we're a logistics company.
Mm-hmm.
And I have yelled many a time that Palm Beach Mill Outlet is 3 blocks away. And it has ample parking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 5 times the size of that building. And it's still cool and old. And has history.
Mm-hmm.
Buy that.
Yeah.
Don't buy a building in the middle and want to tear down Magpies and Corner Lounge and Glowing Body to gain 20 parking spaces.
Yep.
Go screw. Go screw.
Yeah.
We don't need you.
Yeah.
We're no thanks. We already got enough of that. You can go away. So those are the things I worry about.
Yeah.
I would like to see more. I would like to see more kids getting into art outside of school.
Yeah.
Because when I go talk to the kids at Fulton, how many of the kids at Fulton I talk to who have never stepped a foot on Market Square?
Mm-hmm.
Which I know is kind of a touristy thing now, but this has been in the last 5 years. I was like, yeah, these kids can't get out.
Yeah.
Like, we almost need to come and get a van or a bus. Crap. Large, creepy-looking white dude. I shouldn't be saying van. We should get a bus and get these kids and go, we're going to go to McClung. We're going to go to KMA. We're going to go to Lions View Park and draw.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I want to see. And poor kids.
Yeah.
Poor kids who don't have that opportunity.
Yeah. The Muse comes to mind here. What a great resource that is.
Yeah. That's if you want to hear my real thoughts on art, the episode I did with Josh Shorey is pretty aggressive of me getting angry at art.
All right.
It is
I'm
not.
here for it.
He's. I think his conclusion at the end of that episode was, "You need therapy, man. Why are you getting angry at Richard Prince and Cy Twombly?" I was like, "Bullshit! You're getting angry."
Yeah.
I was like, I want to see a poor black kid's art. I don't need to see another Cy Twombly scribble with 5 paragraphs talking about how what it means in his place in this earth. I want to see somebody else.
Yeah.
I want to see something more interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyway, before I go down a rant hole down that, do you set goals or a checklist? Or do you know what you would like to do in the next 10 years?
Whoa, 10 years is a long time because when I think about the last 10 years, it's incredible to think about what you can do in even an hour. Oh my gosh. So, yeah, I would like to publish a chapbook, which, fingers crossed that might happen by next year. There's talks about that. And then I don't know. I would like to collaborate some more in the town with other artists, with other people, with other communities. Since COVID has happened, there was that lull in community. And I think in the past year, I've reignited my love of community. And, when I lost that, I didn't know how much I really missed it until I got back in there. Mm-hmm. So it's been wonderful to start talking to artists again. And I'd like to have a show. That'd be nice. 10 years from now, I don't know. I still want to be working in my field in 10 years. Still want to be making art. Still want to be teaching people and working with people. It's pretty vague, but...
Do you want to stay in elementary education, or would you ever want to go up to college or anything?
I'm not opposed. I'm open. I'm open. I try not to resist what's coming, trying to go with the flow. Maybe that's a millennial thing these days because it seems to be better that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever's next.
Okay.
I'm not looking for a change, but I'm not closed down to that possibility.
Okay. You mentioned collaboration. It's funny. Last question is there anyone you would like to work with?
In particular,
Or I'll go with, is there... Crap. Never mind. Keep going, and I will add a question.
okay. I don't have anybody in particular in mind. So no one in particular.
Killing me. No. Is there any museum or magazine where you would like to see your work published? Would you like your work to be hanging in MoMA? Or is there a poetry magazine that I don't know about that you would like to have a piece published in?
You know, I like to see my artwork hanging in somebody who drives a John Deere tractor's house, you know?
Okay.
More than I'd like for it to be in the MoMA. I want somebody to walk by and be like, wow, I love that barn. I love that barn.
I think that's a Toby Keith song.
Yeah, I think so. And then as far as being published in any particular magazine, you know, I miss High Fructose being in print.
Yeah.
But digitally, I guess would do for that. Juxtapose.
I was going to say I still subscribe to magazines because I like I still like the tangible nature.
Yeah, me too.
There's one of my clients that we were talking, I'm doing an annual report for them, and we started talking about this like a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, we may not print it. I was like, if you don't print it, no one will read it. If you email somebody a PDF and say, here's our annual report, no one will care.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I think print's going to make a huge comeback in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I think people want it.
Mm-hmm.
They're tired of looking at their damn screens, and especially getting through COVID. They're tired of looking at their screens.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Pigeon Parade, which is local. And I did have poetry in there, but their art prints are really, really sexy. So I don't have any other word for that. Looks great.
Yeah.
So maybe in there. I'd like to apply to New American Paintings or Painters when that comes back around.
Okay.
To the South, because they always choose a region for applications. But
and is there any, let's say not somebody you teach, but like let's say there's a 12 or 13 or 14-year-old kid who's afraid to get into art, what is something you would say to them?
Don't be scared.
Okay.
Don't be scared. What would I say to them? I would say that you can make it work for you. Whatever it is, there's a way to make it work. And I think that's because I sit here and I can say that, and you can sit here and you can say that, and you can survive in this field somehow. It happens.
There's a comedian named Bert Kreischer. I wish I could pull his quote, but it was something like, suck until you don't suck anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like, that's the most aggressive way of a very encouraging sentiment.
Yeah, and believe in your story. I think that in art school, maybe you relate to this, but I think there's kind of a push to not delve too deeply into your own narrative.
Mm-hmm.
But I find that I'm most moved by artwork and writing that is explicitly narrative.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to tell your story in your media, whatever that is.
My big thing to people is if it's not going to hurt you, do it. It'll be worth it for the story.
Exactly.
It'll be, you never know until you try. When I worked at PetSafe, one of their mantras was, try a lot of things and keep what works.
Yeah.
And I love that sentiment. Try a lot of things and keep what works.
Mm-hmm. Like a collector.
Yeah.
Like your dad.
It's a great way to end. Thank you for being on.
Thank you.